We will now go to our next witness, Michele Clark, and I would just note that Michele Clark was the director, and this is how we worked very closely on human trafficking, of the Anti-Trafficking Assistance Unit at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, where she assisted all 56 countries of the OSCE, which is virtually all of Europe, the United States, and Canada, with meeting their commitments to combating this modern-day slavery. She is also the author of a comprehensive report without objection, will make a part of the record, a 41-page report called The Disappearance, Forced Conversions, and Forced Marriages of Coptic Christian Women in Egypt. Ms. Clark, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, it's an honor to testify before the Helsinki Commission today. Thank you for your gracious invitation, and thank you for including the report into the permanent record. Mr. Chairman, I'm here today to speak about the disappearance, forced conversions, and forced marriages of Coptic Egypt. Thank you for calling this hearing your steadfast, strong voice over the past few years, over the past decade and then some, in defense of vulnerable women and children remains an inspiration. I'd just also like to call to your attention to the fact that the weather has agreed to turn up the heat on this matter in support of your initiative. The topic is timely, as Egypt is moving into a new phase of government where the rights of all citizens are equally valued and represented. This should include, the rights of religious minorities and of women. While I've provided detailed written testimony to the Commission for the record, I'd like to summarize some of the main points here in my oral presentation. As context, in 2007, the State Department country reports on human rights practice referenced the issue that under discussion and claimed, while there were no reports of forced religion conversion carried out by the government, there continued to be unsubstantiated reports. Reports were disputed. Reports included allegations and denials. Extremely difficult to determine the accuracy, extremely difficult to determine whether compulsion was used, and cases almost never appeared in the local media. In 2008, the Report on International Religious Freedom, in Egypt's country report, uses almost the same language. Reports of forced conversion. Reports are disputed. Inflammatory allegations and categorical denials, extremely difficult to determine. And finally, in 2010, the Trafficking in Persons report published by the U.S. Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking indicated that an NGO report released a report about alleged forced marriages of Coptic Christian women, including an allegation of forced prostitution, although the allegations have not been confirmed. Mr. Chairman, I'm here to confirm these allegations. Mr. Chairman, I'm here to attest that these claims should not be disputed. I'm here to say that categorical denials of kidnappings, rapes, forced marriages, and forced conversions are an affront to the dignity of Egyptian Coptic women. I know this. Why? Because I have spoken to women who've been traumatized after an alleged kidnapping. Who will suffer a lifetime infertility due to an alleged rape, who move from home to home in constant fear of reprisal by alleged perpetrators, and who are denied their Christian identities because of an alleged conversion. In 2009, I traveled to Egypt on behalf of Christian Solidarity International and the Coptic Foundation for Human Rights, together with Nadia Ghali, a spirited human rights activist, to gather evidence to vindicate the claims of these women. We spoke to over 50 women. We met their families. We sat with parish priests who regularly witness this occurrence within their congregation and who have painstakingly compiled binders 5 feet in height of evidence documenting each tragic story. We reviewed legal documents filed by courageous human rights lawyers who were working to restore their original Christian identity to these women. And we drank tea in shelters where women returning from lives of alleged abuse and in some cases forced prostitution were sequestered. Mr. Chairman, under regular human rights, in normal human rights circumstances, such reporting eliminates the use of the word allegation. I'm just wondering why the word allegation persists now that we have been able to document such reports. Let me summarize some of our specific findings. First, we can substantiate that Christian women are in fact lured into marriages with Muslim men and subsequently converted to Islam. These marriages often take place under duress and frequently include abductions, physical abuse, rape. Victims remain reluctant to press charges against their perpetrators for fear of reprisal. When charges have been filed, there is no evidence. We have not been able to find evidence of a single conviction against a perpetrator. Let me give you an example. A young woman, we'll refer to her as H, was befriended by a Muslim girl. She trusted her friend and spent time at her home. One day, in her friend's absence, the brother raped her. Ashamed to tell her own family, she remained with this man's family, during which time the mother persuaded her to convert to Islam and marry the son. She was subsequently locked into her apartment every day when her husband left for work and allowed to leave only with her in-laws. She was denied access to the telephone, made to cover herself when she left the house, and was frequently beaten. Our second conclusion is that authorities do not acknowledge that criminal action has taken place. Instead, young women are presumed to be willing participants in their faith. This is not true. Mr. Smith, you've been in the anti-trafficking arena long enough to understand that one of the chief arguments leveled against victims of trafficking is that somehow they went along with the promises. Anti-trafficking experts frequently are increasingly recognize two important facts. One is that the purposes of trafficking can include forced marriage. This has been documented in the United States government's TIP report. Furthermore, the anti-trafficking community recognizes that one form of recruitment into trafficking takes the form of seduction. In the Netherlands, they refer to it as the lover boy phenomenon. This facade of romance to mark a false intent is consistent with patterns documented in human trafficking cases. Although some women may in fact consent to romance, in no way do they consent to abuse, violence, and loss of religious identity. Therefore, fraud is present in these cases. Under U.S. trafficking law, if force or fraud or coercion is present, you have a case of trafficking. Trafficking does not have to be commercial. Three, that we have identified specific patterns in these instances, Mr. Chairman, including the fact that Coptic girls are befriended, and these patterns would indicate that there is thought and strategy and planning. These are not random occurrences or random actions. Coptic girls are befriended by Muslim girls who are classmates or neighbors, who introduce the young Christian women to their families where they meet a Muslim man. Women and girls often finding themselves in various situations of distress are befriended by an older woman who becomes a mother figure and trusted confidant. The woman provides material and emotional assistance during difficult times and introduces the Coptic girl to a Muslim man who can help. Women and girls are approached by a Muslim benefactor who offers services and assistance in the case of illness. There was one instance where a woman was offered help in buying blood necessary for a child's transfusion. Once trust has been established, girls can be lured to an isolated place, drugged, and kidnapped. Often, they are raped. Following the rape, the Coptic women experience shame and fear of how their families will respond. They become more willing to stay with Muslim friends and marrying the rapist because they feel that there is no place for them to go. These marriages are accompanied by conversion to Islam at the assistance of the man's family, and a new Muslim identity card is subsequently issued. Once married, Coptic women experience forms of psychological and physical abuse, including rape, beating, verbal abuse, confinement to their apartments, limited freedom of movement, and isolation from their families. Furthermore, women report that once the marriage has taken place, the new couple or the in-laws receive some material benefit in the form of a new apartment, new furniture, or perhaps a job given to a derelict son or a former convicted petty thief. Escape takes the following forms. In some cases, notably where there are no children or where the women persist in wanting to get out of the situation, making lives difficult for everyone, the woman is sent home. In other cases, she's rescued by friends and relatives. However, when children have been born, women rarely leave. Another point of interest, Mr. Chairman, is that while Islam forbids a Muslim woman from marrying a non-Muslim man, a Muslim man may marry a non-Muslim woman. In each of the cases documented for this report, conversions and marriages occurred within a few days of each other. Now, it's necessary to inquire further why forced marriages of Coptic women to Muslim men are accompanied by a conversion when Islamic law does not require a conversion. The only purpose it seems to serve is the denial of a religious identity, is the annihilation of a religious identity. Fourth, counseling sessions with members of their own clergy, traditionally part of the conversion process to Islam, is no longer available to potential converts. It used to be that if an individual opted to convert to Islam, meetings were convened where members of my own clergy, together with representatives of the Islamic faith would be together in order so that I would understand the full implications of my choice. Under the former government, these counseling sessions have been suspended. Attempts by various human rights lawyers on behalf of religious minorities to challenge this and to restore these sessions have not been successful, to my knowledge, to date. Fifth, Coptic women experience physical and psychological abuse both before and after their conversions in marriage, including documented reports of forced prostitution by their husbands. Sixth, the Egyptian government does not require the legal Christian identity of Coptic women who have returned to their faith communities of origin to be restored to them. We've received some reports that a few numbers of women are able to regain their Christian identity, but in fact, for the most part, a woman is required to live with her Islamic identity until something is done to change the situation. The Coptic Church has developed some safe houses for victimized women and girls. We have visited them and note that some provision is being made for their care, but on their whole, the issue is shrouded in ignorance, in fear, in shame, with a real unwillingness to bring the issue forward in the country. Based on the preliminary findings of this report, we recommend that the Helsinki Commission actively pursue the following issues. The reinstatement of counseling sessions for those contemplating conversions to Islam. The restoration of Christian identity cards to former converts of Islam who decide to return to their original faith. The investigation of all allegations of kidnappings, rape, and other acts of violence against women associated with forced marriages and conversions of Coptic women, and the persecution of perpetrators. We encourage the U.S. government to fund, out of its democracy funds, programs that work towards freedom of religion and the empowerment of women in the Middle East, two essential cornerstones of any free society. And finally, Mr. Chairman, let's get rid of the word allegation. Thank you.